Hey there, it's Jacques from Heroes and Legends. Now, welcome to another edition of This Week in Magic the Gathering. And it's kind of a bittersweet episode, quite honestly. I came in this weekend starting to put this episode together and really excited about the Pro Tour. I felt like Magic was in one of the best places it's ever been. Shadows Over Innistrad, amazing set. So much excitement around it and around the game. And the Pro Tour was incredible. And we're going to talk in detail about that in just a second, but Pro Tour is incredible. Stacked top 8, as you're going to see in just a second here. But then Sunday at the Pro Tour, the announcements were made about the future of competitive play that were kind of a downer and really made me concerned about the future of the game. And I think a lot of pros were very upset about some of these changes. And it kind of took the wind out of the sails of the whole weekend, and it's kind of where we were and just how exciting it all was. And I don't want to be over dramatic about it, but you'll see as we go in. And I'll let you kind of draw your own conclusions as always. So let's talk about the Pro Tour first. Let's start on a positive note and talk about the event itself and how it turned out and how great it was. So, Pro Tour Shadows Over Innistrad. Now, there's going to be a link in the description below to all the information that we talk about today, including this. So check it out. There's a lot of information to pour through here. We're just going to look at basically the top 8. Probably normally would have spent a little more time on this, but we got a lot of stuff to talk about. But first off, congratulations, Steve Rubin came in first place. But look at this top 8. Like, wow. You know, look at these names. It's just, I mean, John Finkel. John Finkel's there. And good to see him in another top 8. LSV, I think this is the second one in a row, too, that he made. I mean, look at all the, there's no one here that isn't incredible. I mean, you got Shota back, you got Andrea Mengucci's been amazing, Brad Nelson, everybody here, you know, so incredible top 8. Let's talk about the decks and the formats, basically the new standard format, and let's just go through these real quick. And here's the good news, for the most part these are all different decks. Now, going into the event, there was a feeling that Bad Company was just really starting to kind of take over the format, and Bad Company was the most played deck, followed by the mono white humans and some versions of the green-white humans builds. However, those decks didn't do quite as well against some of these new brews that came out, so this is a lot of exciting stuff you're going to see here. Now, let's look at Luis Salvato's Red-White Eldrazi Goggles deck first. Here's the deck list for this. I won't spend a whole ton of time on this because it's very similar to the Eldrazi decks we were seeing, but it's really playing up on the Pyromancer's Goggles as a way to bolster and support this deck. And also, Goblin Dark Dwellers. Really coming out party for this card this weekend. This was seeing a lot of play, so that was really cool. But take a look at this deck list. You can either link to it or else pause the video if you want to spend a little more time on it. But obviously did incredibly well. Let's go up to Andrea Mengucci's Bant Company deck. And Bad Company, this is the one Bad Company deck that did make the top 8. Overall, like I said, it was the most played deck, but it didn't do great against some of these new decks. So I won't spend a ton of time on this one. Again, we've seen this build over the course of the first 2 weeks of Standard, so we talked about this in previous videos. But for the most part, it's Bad Company. Nothing too new there, but obviously piloted extremely well. Let's look at Steve Rubin. This is the winning deck, of course. Green-white tokens, which won. You didn't see a whole lot of green-white tokens decks on coverage other than Steve Rubin's, so I don't know how many were in the field, but obviously he did very well with it. So there it is. And you can see here it's running 4 Gideons, 4 Nissa, Voice of Zendikars, of course your 4 Avacens, Archangel Avacen. But yeah, the Hangerback Walker Avacen combo is really incredible. Although I've noticed it can be a little tricky, especially when Gideon and you have Gideon emblems out. It can kind of mess you up a little bit. As a matter of fact, a couple times on coverage, Steve Rubin kind of made appeared to be errors with some of that sequencing, but hey, who cares? He still won, so I'm sure that's how he feels about it. You know, so really cool deck though to try to sleeve up, but it does look a little complicated. Seth Manfield was there with Esper Control, And of course, they call this Esper Control. They probably didn't want to call it Super Friends, but it's basically a Super Friends deck. Look at Narset Transcendent showing up in a top 8 of a Pro Tour. 3 copies. That's awesome. You got a couple of Jace, Unraveler of Secrets, and Obnixilis, a couple of the new Sorens. So you got 1 creature. It's 1 copy of Sphinx of Final Word. Basically a control deck that's running a lot of Planeswalkers. We'll move up here to Shota's deck, Esper Dragons. Now this one is another one that's kind of been around for a while. You're going to notice here it doesn't have a lot of the new cards in it, but hey, tried and true, it worked really well. So there's nothing wrong with that. You'll see most of the new cards are more so the mana base more than anything, and a few in the sideboard. But for the most part, kind of running the older stuff. And we'll move up here to LSV, who is doing Black-Green Aristocrats. This kind of feels like the next step maybe of the Rally deck. Of course, Rally the Ancestors rotates out, but still a lot of good cards here with Nantuko Husk, Zolapor, Cutthroat. Still using your collected companies here. The Cryptolith Right also doing a lot of work just to make this deck faster and more explosive. And Elvish Visionaries as an engine. Very, very fun to watch this on camera. So if you get a chance, check out some of their videos on the YouTube channel for Magic where LSV is playing, because this is a really cool deck. Brad Nelson was going Goggles Ramp, and Brad's deck in some ways felt a little similar to the red-blue control deck that was being played by Todd Anderson and some of the others first couple weeks, but this really took more of a green red route, and it's got a Tarka in there and also 3 World Breakers, but very amazing deck to watch too. Another very dominant performance in the Swiss rounds with this deck. And let's move on to the last one, John Finkel, Seasons Past Control. And I kind of mentioned the Aristocrat deck felt explosive. This is another deck that just felt super explosive and just did amazing in the Swiss rounds too. So just check this out. You know, it's basically a control deck. I mean, you got really hardly any creatures, just got the 2 Kelatis and then 2 Nissa, and that's it. Other than that, you're just playing a control game. You got your 4 Dark Petitions. Languish was another huge card of the weekend that's going to continue to be really big. I'd say Languish and Archangel Avacyn, of course, huge card. Collected Company continues to be big, but Seasons Past, really, because of this deck, has really had its coming out party as well. So a lot of variety, a lot of great decks, stacked top 8 with a lot of players that people love and love to watch play. This was shaping up to be maybe the greatest weekend of Magic of all time. It was incredible. It was incredible Pro Tour, great coverage, great leaders on the leaderboard, amazing decks, a great standard environment that was diverse. You didn't feel like Bat Company was taking over the world. It was incredible. And on Sunday, there were some announcements made that kind of took the wind out of the whole event. So we're going to talk about all that in just a second, but it's kind of sad because this was actually the 100th Pro Tour. They didn't advertise that. Typically from a marketing point of view, they don't like to advertise the longevity of the game. They want to make people feel like it's accessible to new players. They don't want to make it sound like we've been around for years and years. So they didn't really advertise that in essence, but it was, and it really felt like the high point, maybe the highest point for the game. So let's talk about the other things that have been going on now. Alright, so I have a link to this as well in the description below, and this happened a few days before the Pro Tour, but I'm bringing it up because A, it's important, and B, it kind of ties in with what we're about to talk about next. But first off, California. There's a lawsuit by a number of Magic judges making claim that they should be treated as employees of Wizards of the Coast. Basically, the foundation for this was they do have to take tests, meet certain criteria to become judges, and they felt like they go out there judging, they help promote the product and the company, that they should basically be treated as employees. A couple of things about this. Now, I don't know California law, first off, so I don't know if that's enough to really warrant that, but I will tell you the states I have lived in and places I have worked, that probably doesn't quite get there. I mean, the way I kind of look at it is, I mean, look at, say, a basketball referee or a softball umpire or something like that, especially for smaller community events, you know, Pop Warner football, stuff like that. I mean, they provide an invaluable service, but they're not working for the NFL or for the NBA, right? They're working for whoever's organizing the tournament, whether it's Pop Warner or local youth center or whatever it is, right? So it's really hard to say, even though, yes, as a referee, you have to learn the rules of the game and have to be able to execute in a certain manner, but it doesn't mean that I should be getting paid by the NBA, right? So the claim feels a little shaky to me, but here's where I get a little concerned. First off, let me say this. I feel for judges, trust me, because first off, I don't feel like they're nearly compensated as much as they should be. It's nice that they send out the promo cards, and it's good that they do pay judges to, of course, do things like the Pro Tour and Magic Cup and stuff like that. But for the most part, most of your judges, they're working for local LGSs or tournament organizers, and they're not getting paid nearly enough for what they're doing. And most of them do it because they love the game, and they love the fact that they can mentor new judges and new players, bring kids into the game, get them hopefully out of trouble and doing something constructive, just growing the game in the community. So they have a passion like we all do, and that's why they do it. But at the same time, it'd be nice if we give them a little more than we give them, right? So I'm totally on board with that. Don't get me wrong. Now, the thing about this lawsuit, though, that makes me shaky is whenever you start opening these type of things, then that's when corporate gets involved. And if you've listened to my podcasts in the past, or my articles in the past, or what have you, my feeling is whenever corporate gets involved and stuff, things usually make a turn for the worse. And not to dredge up old stuff we've talked about in the past, but it just feels like that seems to be the pattern, especially with Wizards of the Coast. They do an amazing job creating a great game and designing this incredible game, but whenever corporate and lawyers get involved, usually things get really awkward really quick. And I'm just afraid that this could lead to other things. And there's more on that in just a few moments. Now, like I said, I appreciate the judges. I feel like they should get something, but I find it a little bit of a stretch to think that they should be employed by Wizards of the Coast. Now, if they won that lawsuit, the repercussions could be very bad. Wizards couldn't afford to take on all judges and employees. The benefits alone would bankrupt them. So they would have to basically get rid of the judges program, and then where are we, right? So like, I don't see where any good is going to come from this, you know. So I'll even tell you, I mean, large companies that are in, say, the hospitality industry that have seasonal employees, recent years they've had to cut those seasonal employees off their books, because if they stay employed and they work a certain amount of hours, companies obligated to give them certain benefits that are very expensive, health care benefits and such. So it's just not realistic. It's just not possible. We can't function like that. So I'm just kind of, you know, other than a few people maybe getting some sort of settlement or money from this lawsuit, I don't see where this is going to be good for the game or other judges or anyone else in the long term. That's why this feels a little icky to me. But if you look at the message, this is from Helene Barjot, and you know, she's basically just says, it's not very long, she can't talk about the details of the case, but basically says, you know, they are fighting it, they don't really feel that there's a claim here. So kind of is what it is. I'll let you kind of take a look at it. But the reason I brought that up is it kind of ties into the next big topic, which of course is some of the changes to the Pro Tour. All right, so Sunday during the lunch break of the Pro Tour, Helene Barjot came out and talked about some of this stuff, and also Ian Duke talked a little bit about it too. There's a lot to go over here, so we're going to jump in. Normally when I do this show, I like to do a question and answer at the end. Unfortunately, we won't really have time today. We've got so much other stuff. But if you do have any questions for me, feel free to put them in the comments below. I will definitely get to them in a future episode. But having said that, let's jump into this. First off, 2017 Pro Tour and World Magic Cup schedule was announced. So where are we going? It's exciting news, right? We're going to Dublin, we're going to Nashville, we're going to Kyoto, and we're going to Albuquerque, and then finally for World Magic Cup to Nice, France. So very cool. But if you look to the right of that, you're going to notice something. All 4 Pro Tours are standard and booster draft, and the World Magic Cup is going to be team sealed and team unified modern. So no modern Pro Tour. Now Ian Duke talked a little bit about this, and let's talk about this first before we get into the other stuff. I know a lot of players are upset about this. They like to watch Modern. I like to watch Modern. I like to watch it played at the highest level. You like to see it at a Pro Tour. But I kind of understand why they're doing this. There's a few reasons. First off, the pros themselves don't really like Modern as a format. They kind of feel like that it's a very established format, that they have more of a chance to get a breakout deck and really take over a Pro Tour in the standard format, because there's just more new stuff going on, and it's easier to find things that haven't already been discovered. They can really kind of put their talents at work brewing something like we saw this week, right, with some of those brews, brewing something to break the format, and there's just a bigger payout for that kind of work being put in, where an established format like Modern or say Legacy or something like that, it's very hard to reinvent the wheel. So in most cases you come into that format and everyone's on a little more equal tier. Your extra time that you put in, your extra energy might not mean as much. So I totally get that, and that's one of the reasons that they were tweaking the ban list more frequently. They wanted to make the format evolve and change and give pros a little bit more to chew on. So by doing a banning before the Pro Tour, they're not really trying to make it, well, they claim that they weren't trying to make it like more interesting to watch or anything like that, but they're trying to shake things up a little bit, right? At least for the pros, and at least in my opinion, right? So that happens, which leads to more changes to the ban restricted list, or the ban list I should say, for Modern anyway, and leads to a Modern player having to buy into a new deck, or the deck they got bought into they did buy into now has banned cards, and they're kind of back at square one and that sort of thing, and that's not cool either. So part of the upside of this is there's going to be less focus on changing the ban list as frequently. Not to say that they won't ban cards or anything like that, but it won't happen quite as frequently and feel like such a upheaval when it does happen, hopefully, right? Now, having said that, the downside, like I said, was people do like watching it. I like watching it, and you know, there are some pluses to not having Modern in the Pro Tour, and there's a lot of other places to see Modern still. But there is a feeling too that if it's not played at the Pro Tour, does it count? I mean, a lot of people feel that way. I mean, I personally don't feel that way, I don't think, but I think a lot of people do feel like, you know, hey, if it's not something we see once a year at least being played at the highest level, does it matter? But here's on the flip side of the coin, there's still a lot of GPs. I hope we see Modern Masters events at least every 2 years, like the Las Vegas events were incredible. So I hope they continue to do that. There's ways to promote Modern that aren't the Pro Tour. So as long as they take advantage of those other ways, I'm okay with it. What I wouldn't want to see is, you know, I don't know, it starts to follow the path of Legacy where you don't have as many GPs. They don't do a big Modern Masters event when Modern Masters comes out, and it slowly just starts to disappear. That's kind of not what you want to see, but I don't think that's going to happen. I hope not anyway. So yeah, I mean, let me know in the comments below your thoughts on this one. If you're okay with that, if you're not okay with that. It's been a little bittersweet to me. I can see the positives to this one, but yeah, at the same time, selfishly, I'd like to watch them play at the Pro Tour. Now, here's their reasoning of why that they really wanted to move away from it, and it was the fact that the Pro Tour comes out 4 times a year right after their newest standard release, and they really wanted to showcase the standard cards, which I totally get from a marketing company point of view, because let's face it, the Pro Tour is marketing. It's a marketing campaign, right? So if you can't show off your brand new cards and you're pouring a lot of money into this, investing a lot of money into this marketing, it's not really efficient marketing if you can't show the new set that came out and get people excited about going out and buying those packs. And I gotta wonder, I'm gonna go a little deep here. I'm going a little conspiracy theory on you, so bear with me. But Oath of the Gatewatch. Now, we knew that was going to be a Modern Pro Tour. We also know that one of the key bullet points of a Pro Tour is get the new cards out there, put them out so people can see what they can do. Could they have pushed the power level of Oath of the Gatewatch maybe a little bit too much, and maybe ban Splinter Twin to open the door for some strong Eldrazi decks? Could that have maybe been a little bit pre-planned and pre-orchestrated? I don't know. It's a conspiracy theory. It's probably crazy talk, but we saw a whole lot of Oath of the Gatewatch cards at that Modern Pro Tour, didn't we? Whole lot of brand new cards were shown off. So that's kind of awkward. If they did feel the pressure to push that set and make it better because of Modern Pro Tour, that's probably not really good for the game either. So if that type of thing did happen, don't know if it did, but if it did, it's probably better for them just to stick to standard, quite honestly, if that's what they were going to be doing. But yeah, let me know in the comments below your thoughts on that one for sure. Now let's move on to the next big bombshell that was dropped, and this was changes to Pro Tour appearance fees. Now let's talk about the Hall of Fame participants first. Now, anyone who's in the Hall of Fame currently, every time they go to a Pro Tour, they get $1,500. If they go to also the World's Magic Cup, if they get into there, they also get $1,500. That is now changing, that they will not get anything except for the Pro Tour, where they actually hold the new Hall of Fame induction ceremony. If I'm a Hall of Famer and I go to that Pro Tour, I will get my $1,500, but for the others, I will not get anything. So talking about that first, that's kind of sad to me, and here's why. Pro Tour players, I mean, they get a free invite, obviously, to all the Pro Tours, and not all of them are really like super involved, cutting edge into the game like they used to be, but it's still fun to see them. It's still fun to watch them in the early rounds, even if they don't do well, you know. And I love being able to see some of the folks like Bob Marr, Brian Kibler, you know, folks that maybe aren't top 8ing anymore or anything like that, but they're still part of the history of the game, and they have a little bit of incentive. It kind of covers their costs to travel out there and play and eat and, you know, spend the time out there if they get a little something for it. And I don't know if this deters them from going to as many. I think that's sad. I think that's very sad, you know. So I don't know, this one bothers me quite a bit, actually. Yeah, I just feel like, especially the early rounds of the tournament, I like to see those folks play, you know. And yeah, sometimes you get to see them in draft for round 1 and 2, and maybe they go 0-2 and you don't see them anymore for the rest of the tournament, but still cool to see that they're there and see them interacting with other players and stuff. I don't know. To me, that could be a big loss for the game and for the heritage and kind of the history of it, and that's a little troublesome to me. Let's continue on, shall we? Pro Tour Player Club Platinum status changes. Okay, so for those of you not aware, I don't want to go into the gory details, so basically if you win a lot of Magic Pro points throughout the season, you get to a certain threshold, you get to become what they call Platinum Pro, which means you're invited to every Pro Tour next season, but it also means that when you do go, you get an appearance fee of $3,000. Now, every Pro Tour you go to, you get $3,000 currently. You also would get $1,000 if you go to World Magic Cup and $500 for a World Magic Cup qualifier. That is changing to basically all those things I just mentioned will be $250. $250 from $3,000. That is huge. So obviously I got a lot to say about that, but before I get into that, I want to go down to the next thing. So where is all this money going? Well, they're moving the money to the payouts for the World Championship. Now, this year's World Championship is going to go up to $250,000 worth of payouts, and you can kind of see the table there. First place getting $70,000. Now, the year after, once they kind of have the full year of this going on, then it will go to $500,000 in payout, and first place getting $100,000. Even last place getting $12,000. Now that we've seen all the numbers, we've seen all the facts, let's talk about the Platinum Pros and what's going on there. Now, Matt Sperling, I'm going to link you to his article in the description below. Definitely read it. It's incredible, and he probably articulates it better than I'm going to. But he brought up something that I was kind of thinking the same thing, and I read it from him, and you know, and obviously there's somebody who's very close to Magic, and also very close. He's a lawyer as well, and when it kind of confirmed my suspicion when I saw his theory on it. But the whole thing we just talked about, the judges suing Wizards of the Coast, I think that could have played a role in this decision, and here's why. First off, this happened very fast. I think if Wizards really wanted to change the pay structure and change fundamentally what they're doing with the Pro Tour, I think they would have said, starting next season, anyone who's been working hard all season long to become a Platinum Pro, you're still going to get this, but the following season, then at that point, these changes will take effect. That's not how it went down. I mean, these people were playing hard to get this platinum status, to get this reward, to get this money next year, and the rug got pulled out right from under them. Hey, sorry, you're not getting it no more. That's horrible, right? But I don't think Wizards would just do that. I think they know better than that. I think that this was a mandate coming from Hasbro Legal. I think what happened was, bear with me, I'm getting all conspiracy on you again. I think what happened was that lawsuit's going on. Lawyers came in to examine how we're interacting and playing with players, right? They looked at everything and they said, wow, where's all this money going to? Who are you giving this money to? Pro players are getting this much money? Wow, that could be misconstrued as being an employee of the company. You need to cut that out immediately. So I think they did what they thought was the next best thing, and that was to move that money to prize money and try to give it to Platinum Pros. Because basically, the World Magic Cup is only 24 players right now. I mean, maybe that will change in the future, we'll see. But right now, 24 people participate. For the most part, these are Platinum Pros. Not to say that you couldn't sneak in, not be a Platinum Pro, maybe just win one Pro Tour. But you could sneak in there. But for the most part, these are all Platinum Pros. Now, currently there's, and probably at any given time, there's between 25 and 30 Platinum Pros, I think, typically. So we're not talking about a huge amount of people here, but these are the biggest names in the game. I mean, look at your top 25 that they put out every week on the Wizards website. I mean, those are your Platinum Pros, right? So the way it stands now, few of them won't make it to the World Magic Cup. And the ones that do, well, another year from now, once they get this prize payout set up, well, okay, even if I come in last place, I'm getting my $12,000. So I'm still kind of getting the same amount of money. I'm just getting it as a prize payout. The only problem is the current way that everything's set up, I'm not guaranteed it. And what the bigger issue is, I can't really necessarily take the time and energy to work all year and not get anything until the end. Because right now, at least 4 times a year, minimally, if they're going to every Pro Tour, they're getting some money to help them continue to work on the game, take the time to really get better, practice, build decks, so on and so forth. They're getting at least some sort of compensation, as opposed to getting it all in a big lump sum, which will also be taxed heavier as well, I'm sure. So that's where it gets awkward. And also, I just feel like the fact that it was rolled out so quickly and really kind of pulled the steam out of everyone's sails, I think is another kind of psychological factor that is really detrimental to the Pro Tour and to these folks, right? Whether they're Platinum Pros or about to become Platinum or working towards it. So here's where I think this is going to get bad. Now, if you have any pros that you follow, check out their Twitter. I mean, everybody's talking about this. There's just too many to even talk about or link to or anything like that. But they all kind of feel the same way. He's really disappointed, really down. And as a viewer, I feel the same way. I feel for them. I really do. Because these are, granted, I know it's a small group of people, but it's, like I said, it's some of the most important people. These are the people that you follow. These are the people that you're excited about watching. You want to see them win. You want to see them do well. Everybody kind of has their favorites. I mean, that's just any sport, right? You have your home team, or you have the people you really kind of follow and you want to see them do well. That's part of the excitement of watching it. If you're just watching two people play Magic who you don't know, it's a lot less exciting. I mean, at least for me, I don't know. It's cool sometimes to see what deck they're playing or something, but unless it's like, people that I really have some sort of, I guess, emotional tie to, I'm not as excited about it. And I think that is going to hurt in the long run. Some pro players are already talking about leaving the game. They're talking about going on to play other games, Hearthstone or other esports or other card games or poker or whatever, where they can make just as much or more money. They I think are feeling very disenfranchised right now, and that's sad. Even losing 1 or 2 people is a big loss. Could you imagine losing, say, like Owen Turtwald or LSV or, you know, people like that. You know, they're a big part of the game. They love them or hate them. They're a big part of the game. Sometimes even the people you don't like, that you just like watching them. You want to see them lose, right? You know, it's a loss without those people. It's a huge loss, you know. So, on one hand, I have to believe in my heart this is something that their hands were kind of tied, and legally they were kind of backed into a corner and had to do it. But it doesn't make it any better. It still sucks. It still sucks. I don't know what else to say about it. You know, and I feel like what's sad is this could be the beginning of a recession in maybe player size and excitement for the game, and that's kind of sad because I think we were really at the peak of Magic. More players than ever, more events than ever, more different ways to play. We just had some great sets come out, and Shadows Over Innistrad was incredible. People loved it, and just so much was going the right way. And now I feel like, you know, something like this happens. What if we do lose some of these major pros? Other people start to get disinterested. Card prices start to fall. Guess what? All those speculators that are holding on these cards are starting to lose money. They're getting out of Magic now. And the bubble pops, and from a collectability point of view, things aren't looking good. From a organized play point of view, things aren't looking good. And you start to see the recession. Players start dropping out. They start going on to other things. They start finding digital games that are a lot more impressive and better executed than Magic the Gathering Online, right? And that's how you lose people. That's how you lose growth and enter a recession. And then once a company starts losing money, especially Hasbro as a parent company, is going to come in and try to force them to gain ground. They're going to have to make some dramatic changes to gain ground, and those changes might not always be good changes either. So I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that that is an exaggeration of where we're going, but it's a possibility, and it's kind of sad. It really, well, it should have been an amazing weekend for Magic. Unfortunately, kind of turned into a very sad one, in my opinion. So there's a few other things here. I'm not going to go into crazy detail because we already talked a lot. The last thing I did want to say before I kind of wrap up is, I know some people have already been blaming the new CEO. I don't really think he had anything to do with this. I don't even think he really starts his position yet till the summer. So this has the feel of a kind of last minute scramble, but I don't think it was had anything to do with leadership at that level. It doesn't feel like it anyway. Again, just my opinion from my experience in big corporate business. So anyway, and the last thing on here, and like I said, definitely check out the link and read through this. It's actually good news. There's a little more flexibility for getting into the Pro Tour through the regional Pro Tour qualifier system. So they outline that here and kind of tell you which formats will be played in the Pro Tour qualifiers for each Pro Tour coming up this year. So there's some good information in there. Again, I don't want this video to go too long, but it's all there. Check it out. It is at least a little more positive than some of the other stuff we've talked about. But hey, you know, that's the show for this week. Like I said, Q&A will be back next week, as long as there aren't a whole lot of other crazy things to talk about. But if you do have any questions for me, feel free to put them in the comments below. And please put in the comments your thoughts on all this stuff. I'd love to hear your opinion on it, especially Modern not being in the Pro Tour, and as well as the appearance fee cuts for the pro players. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of that. Yeah, I don't know. It's a sad day, I think, overall, at least for me. So love to hear your thoughts on it. Having said that, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day.
Hey, thanks as always for watching. This video, like all my videos, was made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Even a donation of $1 helps me to keep growing this community and creating better quality videos for all of you. Check out our Patreon page for exclusive giveaways and future goals for the channel. If you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the MTG news, spoilers, set reviews, product openings, or finance videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a good day.